You just decided to stay broke. Because only $10 a day would have made you a millionaire. Buy tomorrow. And by ordering takeout today, you just stole tens of thousands of dollars from your future self. You know that moment when your whole life shrinks down to the size of your banking app? You're sitting in your car, in a supermarket parking lot. It's dark outside. People are waiting for you at home, but for some reason you're not getting out. Why? Because your card is at $40-something, just the basics: toothpaste, shampoo, laundry detergent, stuff for breakfast, nothing extra. But you're just sitting there staring at your phone, running the numbers. If I buy this now, will I overdraft before payday? Will I have enough? And right at that second, while you're feeling like some broke-ass cousin, Instagram pops up. Oh, a new story. Your coworker. She's not in a parking lot. She's by the ocean. Sun, wind, a glass, a smile with all 32 teeth. You have the same job title. Pretty much the same salary, same company, same city. And suddenly there's this question scratching at your brain. How? If you've ever done that, sat there comparing yourself to people who make the same money but somehow live differently, easier, freer, this video is for you. Usually, right about now, to sell you some course, they'd start feeding you millionaire mindset bullshit, money energy, or other grown-up fairy tales, or they'd just say make more money, period. But I hate that stuff. Here's why. The difference between you and that girl by the ocean. It's almost never about income. And it's not about who's smarter. She's not smarter. And her parents probably aren't helping her, because if they were, you'd know. She wouldn't be working in the same office as you. The difference is in the small, invisible decisions, in that $300 to $500 that just evaporates from your account every month. And we don't even notice where it goes. Financial gaps don't happen overnight. It's not like today you're broke, tomorrow you wake up rich, or the other way around. They grow quietly. At first, it's just a slight difference. A little less spending, a little more discipline. You bought cheaper cheese, she bought the nicer one. You skipped the gym to save money, she went. You were pissed about spending on a movie ticket. She took a weekend trip to another city. Seems like nothing. But a few years later, that difference turns into a canyon. And when shit hits the fan, and it always does, she's got a cushion and you've got a credit card and panic. Here's the craziest part. It never starts with some heroic move. Not with stock picks or buying a house. It starts with something incredibly boring and basic. Today, I'm not here to talk about motivation or about make more money, because that's like telling someone with depression to just be happy. That only works if you're an idiot. I want to talk about one simple action, one habit. It won't make you a millionaire tomorrow, but over time, it changes your life's trajectory more than you'd think. It's like turning your steering wheel 1 degree. At first you're going the same way, but 1,000 miles later you're in a completely different city, and that habit is tracking where your money goes, not to restrict yourself, but to understand who you really are. Because until you actually write down those expenses, you'll keep telling yourself that your money is being stolen by utility companies, inflation, or the government. Then you open your monthly statement, and half your paycheck went to 11 p.m. food deliveries when you were feeling lonely, and random online shopping purchases that are still sitting in your closet with the tags on. It's not magic. It's just the truth about yourself that you're escaping from by staring at your phone in that parking lot. Let's run a simple experiment. Picture 2 people, both 28, both making 65 grand a year. Same office, same job title, same taxes. They even rent apartments for about the same amount. From the outside, their lives look almost identical. Same coffee shops, same one vacation a year, same friends, same plans, same dreams. Neighbors, co-workers, even their parents wouldn't see a difference. But there's one tiny detail nobody notices. One of them, since age 22, has been automatically investing $500 a month. Just set up an auto transfer and forgot about it. No trading, no checking charts every day, no panic when the market drops. Money comes out like a utility bill. He sees it not as an expense, but as a bill he pays to his future self. The other one spends that same $500. And here's the thing. He's not buying yachts. He's not living large. First, it was a slightly nicer car, not luxury, just a newer model, then a newer phone, a few more trips, dinners out, because you gotta live a little. Nothing extravagant, just living more comfortably. Here's where it gets interesting. At 30, the difference between them is barely noticeable. One has a slightly older phone, the other a slightly newer one. So what? At 35, the gap is noticeable, but not critical. One goes on vacation. The other's sitting this one out because they need to fix the roof. But at 45, it starts to look weird, and honestly, a little scary. One of them has a few $100,000 in their portfolio. Not life-changing money, but money that's working on its own. They can afford not to fear getting laid off. They can take a break, think things through, switch careers if they want. The other one has almost nothing because there was always something more important, a leaky roof, something for the kid, or just finally taking a real break. And it's not because he's a bad person or irresponsible. He just never set up that auto transfer. Here's the key. Neither of them made dramatic financial mistakes. Nobody lost money gambling, nobody racked up crushing debt, nobody fell for shady pyramid schemes. This isn't a story about bad decisions. It's a story about invisible decisions. The decisions we make without even noticing. $500 a month doesn't sound like a life-changing amount. Today it just feels like a slightly tighter month, like you're depriving yourself of something. But when you repeat that every month for decades, and it's no longer willpower doing the work, it's math. And math, unlike Instagram gurus, doesn't have feelings. It doesn't care if times are tough right now or if you still have time. Well, it just calculates. And 20 years later, it hands you the bill. 20 years from now, these two people will have completely different options. One will be able to switch jobs without fear, go into something creative, start their own thing, or just tell their boss exactly what they think. The other will be tied to their paycheck like it's oxygen. And it's not about talent or luck. It's about the trajectory they chose, without even noticing they were choosing. Financial freedom rarely looks like a sudden leap. Movies love showing those moments when someone hits the jackpot or signs $1 million deal. In real life, it looks different. It looks like a small decision, repeated so many times that one day the gap becomes irreversible. So here's a question for you. Right now, you're somewhere in between those two people. And in the next 10 minutes, while you're watching this video, someone out there is setting up that auto transfer. Now for the uncomfortable part, because this is usually where people say, oh, okay, sounds great, but I don't have an extra $500 lying around. And honestly, most people really don't, but not because they don't make enough. It's because that money is already spoken for, just pointed in the wrong direction. It's like an apartment that never has enough space, even though the closets are bursting with clothes you haven't worn in 3 years. The space is there. It's just filled with junk. Look at your expenses from the last 3 months. No emotion, no beating yourself up like, just numbers. Open your banking app or a Google Sheet and just look. Subscriptions you don't even remember signing up for, streaming services you use once a week, if at all, a gym you haven't stepped foot in for 6 months, but you genuinely believe you'll start going next Monday. Coffee on the way. It's nothing, right? Just a few bucks. Food delivery because you're too tired to cook. And not just any delivery, from that slightly more expensive place because you deserve it. Every single expense on its own seems totally normal. Nobody goes broke from one Netflix subscription or a few lattes, and that's the trap. The problem isn't one purchase. The problem is repetition. $15 here, $40 there, $120 on delivery, $300 on a car payment for a vehicle that's just slightly nicer than you actually need. And suddenly, at the end of the month, you've got a number you never saw as investment money. You saw it as living, as normal, as this is just how everyone lives. And here's the thing. I'm not talking about living like a monk. I'm not saying you should tighten your belt so hard you can't breathe or survive on nothing but pasta. You don't have to give up everything. The question is different. Do you actually understand the real cost of these expenses? Because $300 at restaurants today isn't just $300. If you took that $300 and invested it at average market returns in 20 years, it's a completely different number. In 30 years, even bigger. And we don't feel that because the future doesn't hurt like today's discomfort does. The future doesn't hurt at all. It just shows up. The money that could be working for you is already flowing through your account every single month. Right now, it's working for someone else's business model, someone else's ads and marketing. For the gym owner, hoping you never show up. For the streaming service that knows you'll forget to cancel. For the coffee shop that placed their register right in your path. They've done everything to make money flow to them automatically. And have you done anything to make it flow to you? If you're honest with yourself about the numbers, it becomes clear. The question isn't whether you can save $500. The question is what matters more to you, instant comfort or long-term freedom, because that money is there. It's just evaporating. And while you're telling yourself, I don't have anything to start with, someone else is already setting up their auto transfer to their future. This is where it stops being theory and starts becoming a system. Compound interest isn't just a term from a textbook, it's a mechanism. It either works for you for decades or it works against you while you procrastinate. Let's skip the hype. Just math. If you invest $500 a month into an index fund like the S&P 500 and do that for 40 years, Historical average returns around 10% annually give you over $3 million. Now pay attention. Over 40 years, you'll contribute about $240,000 of your own money. Everything else, over $2.7 million, is growth. The majority of your future wealth isn't created by your work, it's created by time. But here's the problem. The first few years look completely uninspiring. First 12 months, nothing special. First 3 years, modest results. Even after 5 years, the number doesn't look like a revolution. That's exactly why most people quit at the starting line. The first $100,000 can take 8 to 10 years. It's the slow, boring phase. You're putting money in, and your account grows like it's barely trying. But then comes the tipping point, when your portfolio hits $200,000 and the market returns 10%. Now that's $20,000 growth in a single year. At $500,000, that busted time, that's $50,000 growth. At $1 million, why, that's $100,000 a year with zero effort. At some point, your money starts earning more than you can physically save. And that's the phase most people never see because they quit too soon. The rule of 72. Divide 72 by your rate of return, and you'll know how many years it takes for your money to double. At 9%, capital doubles roughly every 8 years. $100,000 to $200,000 to $400,000 to $800,000 to $1.6 million. And that's without any genius strategies. Another factor, reinvesting dividends. If you automatically plow them back in, you add another layer of compound interest. It's like interest on interest on interest. The worst strategy? Trying to time the perfect moment. People wait for dips, crises, elections, but historically, every year you're out of the market is one less year of compound growth. And in an exponential system, that's incredibly expensive. Compound interest isn't linear. At first, the line is almost flat. Then it slowly rises, and near the end, it goes vertical. That's why starting early beats starting with more money. The person who begins at 25 with small amounts almost always beats the person who starts at 35 with bigger contributions. Because those extra 10 years aren't just 10 more years of life. They're 10 more years of growth working for you for the entire future period. Gaps kill results too. If you invest for 10 years, then stop for 5. You're not just losing contributions, you're losing 5 years of exponential growth that could have been working for you until the end. Consistency beats intensity. A steady $500 for 30 to 40 years beats chaotic big deposits when you feel like it. And here's the craziest part. This strategy doesn't require talent. It doesn't need predictions or financial genius. It needs one thing, the discipline to not interfere. Not panicking when everything's red, not selling out of fear. Compound interest is a reward system for the patient. It punishes those who wait, who doubt, or who constantly start over. And it's one of the few things in finance that actually works for anyone who just gives it time. Now let's talk about what stops even smart people. Fear. Not lack of money, not lack of knowledge, but that little voice inside. What if everything crashes? What if there's a crisis? What if I pick the wrong moment? These are normal questions, but you have to separate emotions from statistics. The S&P 500 has survived the Great Depression, 2 world wars, oil crises, the dot-com crash, 2008, the pandemic. And for nearly a century, the average annual return has stayed around 10%. That doesn't mean the market goes up smoothly every year. No, it drops, sometimes hard, sometimes painfully, but historically it recovers, always. And here's the key nuance. The biggest up days often happen right after the biggest drops. Studies show that if an investor misses just a few of the best days over a decade, their returns get cut in half, or worse. And those days usually happen during periods of panic. The strategy, I'll get out, wait it out, and jump back in sounds smart, but in practice it almost always backfires because you can't predict the moment to get back in. Another thing, investing consistently during downturns. When the market drops 20 to 30%, your same $500 buys more shares, you're automatically buying at a discount. No predictions, no trying to catch the bottom. The problem is when the market drops, your brain screams, run! That's evolution. But the market isn't a tiger in the jungle. It's a system that cycles through fear and recovery. If your time horizon is 20 plus years, temporary dips are part of the process, not a signal to flee. An investor who thinks in decades doesn't react to news headlines. They look at the historical horizon. Fear is the enemy of capital. It makes you sell at the bottom and buy at the top. And the paradox is that the simplest strategy, just staying in the market, has historically been the most effective. The market doesn't reward the smartest people. It rewards the most patient, the ones who can sit on their hands while everyone else is running around screaming. Here's what almost nobody talks about. The biggest obstacle to financial freedom isn't the market. It's not your salary. It's not even inflation. It's your own brain. Our brains weren't designed for 40-year investing. They were designed for survival, right here, right now. For finding food, avoiding predators, and reacting to immediate threats. And that's exactly why they constantly push us toward short-term decisions. In behavioral economics, this is called present bias. We automatically overvalue today's benefits and undervalue future ones. $500 today feels real. A vacation now is tangible. A new car is concrete, but $3 million in 40 years, that's an abstraction. Your brain just doesn't take it seriously because to your brain, the future is tomorrow, not 2065. The second factor is loss aversion. Psychologists have proven it. The pain of losing is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining. So when the market drops 15%, people react emotionally even when they know they're investing for decades. The brain screams, "Run." And that scream drowns out the voice of reason. The third trap is lifestyle inflation. You get a raise, and almost automatically your expenses rise. Slightly nicer apartment, slightly newer car, slightly more expensive restaurants. Nobody makes a conscious decision, I'm not going to invest. It happens invisibly through hundreds of tiny, well, I can afford it moments. And here's the thing, discipline is an unreliable strategy. Motivation fades, moods change. Today you're full of enthusiasm, tomorrow you're tired and just want to live for now. That's why automation isn't just convenient. It's the key tool. When investments are auto-drafted on the first of every month, you remove emotions from the equation. The wealthiest long-term investors I know make fewer moves, not more. They check their accounts less often. They don't react to news every day. They set up the system and let it run for years without interfering. Your brain will always offer you comfort now. The market rewards patience later. And winning here isn't about intelligence or predicting the future. It's about not getting in your own way. When we talk about millions, most people picture entrepreneurs or traders who got lucky. But the most interesting stories aren't about that. Ronald Redd was a gas station attendant and janitor. No business, no inheritance. He just bought stocks for decades and reinvested the dividends. After he died, they discovered his portfolio was worth over $8 million. Nobody expected it. This isn't about genius. It's about consistency. But there's a catch. Fees. The difference between a fund with 0.03% expenses and a fund with 1% fees seems tiny, but over 30 to 40 years, that tiny percentage can cost you hundreds of thousands. Why? Because fees work on compound interest too, just against you. Every year, they shrink the base that could be growing. Low-cost index funds win for exactly this reason. You're not trying to beat the market, you're just letting it work. Financial freedom rarely looks like a breakthrough. It's years of invisible right decisions. No noise, no drama. The biggest fortunes aren't built on risk. They're built on patience and controlling your costs. At this point, it's all clear. The question isn't whether compound interest works anymore. The question is whether you'll start. Because the gap between two financial futures almost never comes from one big event. It comes from a small decision made today. And that decision isn't complicated. Open an account. Set up an auto transfer, pick a low-cost index fund, and stop interfering. It takes less than an hour, but the consequences stretch for decades. Or 40 years from now, two versions of you will exist. One opens their account and sees millions. They don't panic over news. They're not afraid of losing their job. They get to choose, not just survive. The other one worked too, tried just as hard, but always found a reason to start later. First, get stable. Then make more money, then wait for the right moment. Here's the problem. Compound interest doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It either works or it doesn't. Every year you delay doesn't just reduce the amount, it reduces the exponential effect of future growth. You can spend the next 10 years searching for a better strategy, or you can just let time start working. Financial freedom doesn't appear suddenly. It accumulates, invisibly, slowly, until the moment the gap becomes obvious, and it all starts not with big money, not with talent, not with the perfect moment, but with the first auto transfer.